All right, ladies and gentlemen, DSP here. Welcome back to part 2 of Ask the King, episode 71 for July 2018. If you have not seen part 1 first on YouTube, I recommend you watch that part first. We're jumping right into the midst of the forum questions, so I'm just going to slide right back in there and continue on. Just a reminder to anyone who is here live that your contributions will be added to the leaderboard, and I will be doing shout-outs for your contributions during this stream, okay? Oh, my goodness. Okay, let's continue. Hermano Carl asks the following. He says, I remember you saying that you had no interest in playing Catherine again. I think the unique vibe and style of the game makes it good for streaming, not to mention that it has different endings, and also the last time you played it, it was recorded by a camera, not directly. Taking the previous into consideration, will you play it again sometime in the future? I don't want to say 100% no. I am aware that Catherine's being re-released at some point this year with apparently a new content or whatever. But that game was very unique because it was a unique game for one playthrough. Playing it a second time with it's just the puzzles. I'll be honest, the puzzles aren't great. Like the puzzles are the gameplay of the game, and really it's not the focus. Like the reason people liked Catherine was because of the story. I already know the story, and even though there may be some story variations, I don't know if replaying the game again would have anywhere near the same impact as the first time I played the game. And also keep in mind that game is literally in the same art style as Persona. And at that point, I had never played any Persona game. So for me, it was like going outside of my comfort zone, playing this very Japanese-centric game, Japanese culture and the like. And it was very different from the kind of stuff that you would normally see me play. And I think that's why it ended up being such a successful playthrough. For me to come back years later and play the same game again, the same puzzles again, the same plot again with maybe a little bit of variation, I don't know. You know, it's not like it's Catherine is like Grand Theft Auto. You know, it's not. Grand Theft Auto is always going to be this kind of franchise that's always held up in these really high regards. So I don't think that going back would make much sense. At the same time, I don't want to say no. Let's see. I don't even know when it comes out. So let's see. We'll find out. Old Man Nutcakes, subscribe to the channel. Wow. Thank you, Old Man Nutcakes, for the sub. All right, moving on to the next page of questions. So this question is from the Warlord 2K50, and he asked the following. Earlier this year, my local game video retailer, Granger Games, closed down with very little explanation, apart from some news outlets discussing their financial issues, and a few weeks later, they were news reports talking about more street stores having financial problems in this area. My question is, do you think we're nearing the end of physical media, going into actual stores for shopping and physical money? I think part of this is likely as more people are doing digital when buying games, online stores are taking over, and cryptocurrency like Bitcoin are becoming more mainstream. In particular, with certain products and media, I do think we're hitting a digital age. I think at least in the mainland United States of America, probably for the vast majority of places where things like video games, movies are super popular, okay? Digital is the way to go. People, more now than ever, are, instead of going out and buying the Blu-ray, they're just getting it digitally on demand. Right? Instead of going out and buying the physical game disc, they're just getting it off of PSN, Xbox Live, or Steam, right? Why go out to the physical store to buy the game when the real only benefit is eventually maybe being able to trade it in for a few bucks down the road? Is it really worth it? For me, that's literally what's happened. Since I moved to Washington State, I went from a model where I always bought the physical games and I always traded them in to get money back to all digital, because I just knew the hassle of having to go to the store every day, the hassle of now having to figure out between, you know, having a car that's here or not here and being able to get to the store. It was too much of a pain in the ass. And if the digital version is available, why on earth are you going to drive to the store, right? So that's being said, there are other things that I feel you kind of do need physical interaction to buy them. For example, clothes. You could see a picture of a piece of clothes online. It doesn't mean that clothes is going to fit the way that you want it to. It doesn't mean it's going to look the way that you want it to. I can tell you so many stories I see on social media. Someone ordered a dress or a shirt online, then they get it and it looks completely terrible on them, right? Or it doesn't fit even though you think it would. Shoes in particular, impossible. Shoes, you need to have the fucking physical shoe in your hand to buy it, because shoes are all different. You could have a shoe that says it's an 8, and then it fits your foot, and then you have another shoe that's an 8, it's too small, another shoe that's an 8, and it's too big. Shoes are not even consistent when it comes to sizes, so you have to have the actual physical thing in your hand to try it on and see how it feels, right? Furniture. You don't want to order furniture online for an incredibly expensive amount of money, get it in your house, and now it looks like shit or it doesn't fit. You see what I mean? Like, there's always going to be things that you're going to want to see stuff in person and either try on or get a demo of before you end up dumping a ton of money into them. And so even if it becomes to the point where everything is purchased online, I still feel that what we'll have is, I guess what you would call them is view rooms, showrooms, showcases, consignment shops, where you're going to go at least to physically see the thing in person before you order it, and then maybe it gets delivered to your house afterward. Maybe we will stop having the immediate physical purchase. You give the money, you immediately get the item. Maybe that's going to go away. You give the money, and then you'll get, oh, it's on order, and it's going to show up in 2 days from now at your house, right? I could see that happening. In fact, a lot of places do that right now. They don't have the inventory there. They just have the showroom, and then you get it later on, right? Furniture has always been like that. You can't buy furniture in person. It gets delivered to your house later when they get out of the warehouse. So I don't know. You know, I definitely think digitally, when it comes to digital entertainment, music, movies, television, video games, we are entering the all digital era. I think we are going to see a big push to get rid of the physical copies, and everyone's just going to want to have an on-demand library. But keep in mind, the on-demand library only goes as so far as if your internet works. And I think that's a big thing here that a lot of people don't realize. When your internet's down, you're fucked, right? You can't get any of that stuff anymore. Versus someone who bought the disc, now you can still play the game, you can still watch the movie, etc. So there are pros and cons. And I think what's going to happen is we are going to become an internet-dependent society, and everything's going to be based off the internet. It just seems like we're pushing that way. Excuse me. But I still think there's going to be a dichotomy where you're going to still need the physical store in certain cases for certain kinds of products. Okay? Okay. Dean Jones asked the next question. He says, Phil, seeing as you spent the majority of your life surrounded by video games, what was the one game you played that made you realize games could end up being respected as an art form within entertainment as we know today? Were there certain aspects like narrative, graphics, or characters that stuck in your mind and changed your outlook on how you viewed games from that point onward? I would say there were two eras, okay? The first era was the era of the PS1. Because when the PS1 came out, although I will openly admit a ton of games on that were kind of just disposable games, or games that you just play frivolously for fun, the gameplay is what hooks you and that's it. There were games that were experiences. I feel like the first time I played Resident Evil 1, that was an experience. That was like being in a horror movie that was interactive, and I never felt, the first time the dog broke through the hallway window, I almost pissed myself. No exaggeration. I was not expecting that. I was like, that's something I would see in a movie. And I did not expect that kind of stuff to happen in that game. I felt like this is it. This is the cool, we've turned video games into the interactive medium of things we've done in other things like movies and TV, but now you're doing it, you're holding it, you're playing it, you're interacting with it. So I would say probably like that kind of game is the game. No, Bionic, that is Resident Evil 1. You have no idea what you're talking about. That kind of game is the kind of game that was the first era where I felt, man, games are more than just games. Now they can actually become kind of works of art. But it really wasn't for me until later on, I would say last console gen, when I started experiencing really robust gameplay experiences like Grand Theft Auto 4, Mass Effect, Uncharted, that paired that kind of interesting gameplay with an insanely good story, great graphics, and an interactive thing that really made you feel like you were creating your own adventure. That's when I really felt that games have become a work of art. So even though I think we had the initial pieces of the puzzle kind of being formulated back in the 90s, it wasn't until last console gen that we finally had the technology to catch up and make it feel like you really were a part of a work of art that was interactive. That's my opinion. I'm sure there'll be people who will completely disagree with me. Okay? Now, Good RPG just said, but what about Final Fantasy VI? Well, Final Fantasy VI, yes, I do feel that it's one of the best gameplays, one of the best stories of all time. But let's face it, the little cutie doll pixelated graphics, you know, you knew you were playing a game. You knew you were playing, you know what I mean? It wasn't until the graphics got to the point where it looked realistic, the music was orchestral, the plot was robust, you had all these awesome gameplay decisions, then you get the feeling that you're really an interactive work of art. Final Fantasy VI is an amazing game, but it's also a very old, outdated game, especially when it comes to the graphics, okay? Okay. Derek Loves Lemur asked the following. He says, when you were a kid in school, did the teacher give you a lot of detentions for not completing the work? If yes, do you remember what did the teacher would make you do what would the teacher make you do during the detention? Do homework or read books or listen to music? Sketch and draw on your notebook? Fall fast asleep and doze off? First of all, I always did the work. I never in high school he just didn't do the work and he got in trouble for it. My parents were very strict when it came to that. They went because I was going to a private school. They wanted to make sure that I was doing the work for the money they were paying. So my studies were always very serious when I was in high school. All right. But I went to detention once ever for something I didn't do. It's a funny story. So it was a study hall, and it was a teacher who didn't know who I was. Like, he had never taught me before, so he had no idea who I was. He didn't know that I was actually a good student or whatever. And I remember these students always made fun of this teacher. They thought that he was like a dweeb or whatever. So they would do stuff behind his back. And a few of them were my friends. They would tease this guy. You know, they would do stuff like yell when he turned around. And he'd turn around and say, who the fuck did that or whatever. And they wouldn't fess up. In this one particular day, they were really going hard. What they did, they stole chalk from the chalkboard when he wasn't looking. And then when he turned around, they would chuck chalk at him and hit him with chalk, physical pieces of chalk. Now, obviously, that's a no-no. You can't physically touch a teacher, right? So it was a pretty big deal that they were doing this. You're not supposed to do that. So basically, it was all the people sitting around me, all right, who were doing this, and I was in the middle of them. And I mean, they hit him, and his reaction was hilarious. Okay, so I was kind of like snickering, like, and then he singles me out and walks up to me and says, "You, get up! You're going to see the principal or whatever." I forget who it was. I think it was the dean of discipline or whatever. I was like, "Me?" I was like, "I did absolutely nothing. I've done nothing wrong. You have no evidence that I've done anything wrong. You can't just single me out just because I smiled at something that happened, but he did." And then he tried to get me detention, and he did. He ended up making me go to detention. I basically went to... He was called the Dean of Discipline, and what he was he was actually a teacher at the school, but also he was basically in charge of disciplining kids who were acting up. And when I walked into his office, his face was like, what the fuck? Why is Phil in here? And he asked what happened. I explained the whole situation. I'm like, this is bullshit. I did nothing wrong. The guy has no evidence. He's just being a jerk. He basically was mad that other people were trolling him, and there was no way to tell who did it, so he just randomly picked someone out to be an example. And he's like, I want you to do me a favor. He says, I'm going to talk to this teacher to make sure this kind of stuff doesn't happen again. Okay. But what I want you to do is just do me this favor and please just go along with it. All right. Do the detention. That way we don't have an upheaval where every single possible kid who does something wrong is now saying that the teacher did the wrong thing by, that sending them to detention, because we don't want to have a big thing happening in school. And bottom line is, we really get the feeling that if you did do that, that a lot of other kids would now start sticking up and say, oh, I didn't do it. When in reality, they did do it. Everyone's just going to be like super defensive. He's like, you're basically the exception to the rule here. And I know that. And I believe you that you didn't do anything wrong. Could you do a favor so that the school could keep order? And I was like, I guess so. So literally all I did, I sat in detention. I think I either did homework or I read. I didn't care. I hated being there. I thought it was bullshit. But I fucking just kind of sat around and did nothing. You couldn't listen to music back then. Keep in mind, there were no portable music players, and they wouldn't allow like CD players and stuff in school. So I couldn't do that. I had to do some kind of work. I don't remember if I read or I did some kind of work or something. I really have no actual, no actual recollection or anything of anything that actually what happened in that detention hall or whatever. But that was the only time. That was the only time. Okay, let's see here. I'm trying to see, because there's some troll cheers that I'm not going to read here. Well, Cumin Spice cheered and said a very positive message, but it's so long I'm not going to read it. Thank you for the cheer, Cumin Spice. DJ Runo cheered and says, since the school subject came up, what was, in your opinion, the most stupid thing at school? Mine was that if you have to write an essay about something, you have to be like a minimum amount of words. Stupid because if someone can explain something just as well in 600 words instead of 1,000, he gets punished. DJ Runo, it's been so long since I've been in any kind of school or education, I can't even answer your question. I apologize. I can't. I would take too long for me to try to go back scouring my memory of stuff that I used to do in school to try to remember what the hell, would be a legit answer. Thank you for the cheer, but in that regard, I can't, I don't have a quick answer for you. All right, let's continue on. The next question is from Random Ron, and he asked the following. Actually, hold on. Okay, we're 15 minutes in this part. He says, I'm noticing a trend with recent competitive games. A lot of networks like ESPN and Disney XD are now broadcasting a lot of esports competitive games and leagues, a la EVO and Overwatch League. While I'm happy that these types of games are getting a wider audience of mainstream support, the problems I have with them are the drawbacks of having it on these networks compared to Twitch or any other streaming site. Best example being Street Fighter V, and by the way, I'm well aware that you don't care for Street Fighter V itself, but bear with me. On ESPN, not only was the commentary during Street Fighter V completely bland, and 90% of it was just explaining basic mechanics rather than actually commentating on things going on in the match, but there were cases when competitors who played with characters with revealing clothing, for example, Cammy or Armika, were actually told to pick different skins so those characters were suitable for TV. Wow. My question, does bringing these kinds of games to these types of TV networks do harm to how creative games can be made? I think that's really stupid, in my opinion. I think that if you're gonna promote a game, you got to promote the real game. You know, that would be like saying, I mean, how far do you push the envelope? You know what I mean? Like, it's a fictional game. The characters aren't real. There's no freaking nudity or anything in the game or anything like that over the top. So, how far do you push it? Oh, well, there's one move where it looks like you're punching someone in the nards. And, you know, that's too extreme. So don't use that move in the tournament anymore. You know? Like, I'm sorry. I've seen the outfits for Street Fighter V. Some of them are revealing, but none of them are nude. And certainly none of them would be anything over, say, a PG rating. So why on earth these channels think that they're going to tell people to pick other skins? That's ludicrous to me. That's absolutely ludicrous and stupid, in my opinion. But I do think it's a transition. These games are not mainstream. You know what I mean? They're not mainstream, and they're let me say it this way. Showing these games on TV is not mainstream yet. Like, it's not a common occurrence that every Street Fighter tournament is on television. You see what I mean? It's an exception. Maybe Evo gets it, you know, but it's not going to be every single tournament is a mainstream thing that gets shared on TV or anything like that. You know what I mean? So that being said, I don't think that it's that big of a deal, and I think what you're going to see is an era of transition. When these things become more mainstream and people start to understand what they are more, no one's going to care that there's a revealing outfit. The commentary is always going to be a problem, because when you have something that's competitive at a high level, it's very hard for a commentator to relay what's going on at a high level to a lay audience. And what I mean by that is an audience that isn't, in the mindset of pro gaming and maybe doesn't know what's going on in the game. So how do you explain, oh, well, that was a meaty attack that he did, but he didn't react properly on wake up, and therefore the meaty hit and led him to do a giant stun combo, and now because he has the stun combo, he can combo the super that normally would not be comboed and does insane damage. How do you explain that to the layperson? The layperson doesn't even know what a meaty is. You see what I mean? So how do you do commentary on an event? That's tough. That's always going to be tough, in my opinion. Trying to relay a high-level competitive situation to someone who has no actual innate knowledge of the competitiveness of a game. So commentary, I mean, what can you do? I mean, you could be the flip side. Some of the commentators in the fighting community are very adult-oriented, and people like that. Oh, yeah, they're going to swear on stream and say stuff, inappropriate stuff. But at the same time, there's also commentators who are a good mix of professionalism, but also getting the hype. So I don't know. I honestly don't have your answers. I mean, sadly, Random Ron, like, you know, I don't watch these games. I don't watch the streams. I don't watch the stuff on TV. I don't watch tournament level gameplay. So I can't really give a commentary on, oh no, it's being dumbed down because it's on TV. I have no idea. All I could do is comment off of what you said. In my opinion, I think the outfit thing is completely silly and ridiculous. Commentary, I don't know if it can be helped. Okay? All right. Shout out to Antonio Chavez, whoever that is, who tipped me $1 and says, "Hi Phil, I'm currently doing video editing at college. Would you accept animations and fan art made by me?" Yes, I would. There's a good place to post that up. It's at the kingofhate.com forums. There's a thread there that actually, it says fan art submissions, because Phil has returned to streams. And if you post it up there, I'll review it and determine if I want to use it on a stream or not, okay? Or you could just email me too, all right? I also got another anonymous tip for $1 and says, "What is your opinion on Anita Sarkeesian?" I have no opinion on Anita Sarkeesian. I stay as far away from that as humanly possible, and I don't want to have any part of that drama. So there you go. Okay, Brad asks, "What are some of the best pro wrestling matches I've ever seen?" Well, all I can tell you is from my personal experience of what I used to do, what I used to watch. I mean, I used to watch wrestling in the 80s and early to mid-90s. Then I stopped watching wrestling completely, and then I started watching it again in the 2000s. And what I can tell you is I've seen many great matches, and by the way, I'm going to be honest here. I'm not going to censor myself. People like Shawn Michaels, Bret the Hitman Hart, amazing matches. In particular, the Shawn Michaels Bret Hitman Hart Iron Man match still stands up in my mind as one of the best ever. And, you know, as messed up of a person as he was, Chris Benoit was actually an incredibly good wrestler for his job. Outside of that, I have no comment on anything, but in the ring, he actually was an amazing wrestler. Chris Jericho, in my opinion, has put on some amazing... I mean, Chris Jericho has had great matches with HBK and many others. You know what I mean? Because it's funny, because you could say, what is a good match? Well, are you talking technically, or are you talking showmanship? And if you're talking showmanship, you're going to say, oh, The Rock and Stone Cold were the best, or Triple H to some extent. But for me, when I think matches, what's the best match? What was the best technical match that was so good, right? And there's still some that stand out in my mind. The CM Punk John Cena match from 2006, was it? No, not 2006. What was the one? 2012? The year when he did the pipe bomb and then he ended up winning. That was like an amazing match, the CM Punk John Cena match. But now, the thing is now, WWE has completely changed their mindset. And now what they realize is, instead of focusing on these big, roided guys like they always used to, which Vince builds them up as big guys, instead they're actually going to the indies. They're going to Progress Wrestling in the UK. They're going to Ring of Honor. They're going to New Japan. They're going to these different territories, and they're taking in wrestlers from all these different territories into their own developmental programs and turning them more into a WWE product, but they still retain the skills that they had. And you see some insane matches. I've seen some crazy matches. Last night, there was a crazy good Fatal 4-Way for the number one contendership for the Cruiserweight title. Actually, I take it back. It was Tuesday night, but I watched it last night on WWE Network. Then there was a crazy good match, Tommaso Ciampa versus Aleister Black for the NXT title. That was an amazingly good match. I mean, Johnny Gargano has been doing two amazing matches recently. Andrade Cien Almas has been doing amazing matches for the past year and a half. And this is all stuff most people don't know about because it's not on mainstream TV yet, which sucks. But that's what I mean. Like, I've seen, in the past 3-4 years, I think I've seen better, higher caliber matches in WWE than I've ever seen before. Okay? The one thing you have to understand, Brad, is that I'm pretty much a WWE guy. I'm fully aware that Ring of Honor and New Japan, all that exists. I don't watch that stuff. It's so time-consuming just for me to be caught up with the WWE stuff. So I don't know any. I'm sure they're probably insanely good. I've heard that there was one match in New Japan that was like the best match ever. Everyone said it was like the best match ever, hands down. But outside of that, you know what I mean? Like, I can't really comment. So I hope that at least I touched upon some of the stuff that maybe you were looking for there. Okay. What I would like to do now, guys, before we continue on with forum questions, I want to do shout-outs. I want to do shout-outs to patrons who, in particular, pledged at a very generous level and really helped me out over the last few months. Keep in mind, I haven't done Ask the King for 3 months. Typically, I do it every other month. But this is the 3rd month now, so I want to give a shout-out to those who contributed very generously to my Patreon in this quick segment. Okay, so shout-out to the following people. M, Tom Dooley, Peanut Brother, Villix, Abdulrahman Al-Thani, Fallen 1570, Big Tone 995, Infinite 55, Casey Wood, Planet Jeff, Thomas McDonald, Sean Given, Mike Hunt 2018, Last Rambo 341, Jamie Ford, QPZMWN, Mayor Muracho, Colton Hotchkiss, Relique, Storm Force Gamer, Richie7, Byron Ripple, Show Creos, I apologize, I don't know how to pronounce your name, I probably butchered it, Michael Denealt, Louis Eva, Ghost, Hank Duma, Lord Lamb, Orange X Juice, Tono88, Zach Moron, I wonder if I spelled that wrong, I apologize if I spelled your name wrong, Ariel Stoltz, and Evan O'Dare. Okay, thank you guys again for your contributions, I appreciate that very much. Let's continue on now with forum questions. What time is it? We still got good time here, so I don't have to split the part yet, which is good. All right. Next question from Cody Carls. He says, my question is, what has been your favorite patron or sub-event or marathon and or the best hidden gem game you've experienced because of an event? In the 3 years that you've been doing them so far, I've enjoyed them a lot. There have been some great playthroughs that have come out of doing them. Good stuff. Thanks, and here's to many more events and marathons in the future. Man, see, here's the thing. There's so many good stuff that's come out of Patreon. I mean, I'm serious about that. Like, the events and stuff that I've done on Patreon because a result of Patreon events and stuff have been great. Like, the stuff people nominate and vote always is, like, unique stuff that normally I wouldn't play. And I've been exposed to so much stuff in the interim of doing Patreon. 3 years now I've had Patreon. So just some things, excuse me, just some things that are standing out. Minecraft. And that's, probably the one that's going to always come to the forefront when I think stuff that I did because of Patreon, because people wanted to see me play Minecraft for the first time. They asked for a long time, and I said, no, it's a kiddie game. No, it's a piece of shit. No, I'm not going to play. I'm not going to waste my time playing Minecraft. And then finally, when Patreon came along, people said, do it as a special event as a result of the patrons. I did. And boy, even though I'll admit, I don't love the game. I don't think it's a game that I would play at length and I would play endlessly and get hooked on it and addicted and just play it nonstop. Minecraft is definitely a fun game that I can understand why people get hooked on it, and it becomes kind of a time sink. Whether it's surviving, just the survival aspect of everything out to get you, whether it's after building the perfect fortress, the perfect civilization, right? I mean, you could build so many different buildings and things, villages. Then the mining, going under the ground, fighting enemies, looking for the rare minerals, going to the netherverse and all of that fun stuff that's in the game. Really opened my eyes. I thought it was just literally kiddie stuff, and it's not. It really isn't. Like, there's a lot in that game to hook you on it. Now, Minecraft at this point is dying out completely. Like, you can tell, almost no one really talks about it anymore. Remember, it used to be this crazy viral sensation on YouTube. Now, almost no one's doing anything with Minecraft anymore. It ran its course, which is fine. That's what happens with things like that. But the thing is, it still has popularity because it's a game that had longevity, and a game that's found a way to reinvent itself a couple times over the years. So I now, genuinely, after having played Minecraft, I still feel bad that for years I badmouthed the game, that I was just an ignorant idiot, and I refused to play it and understand what it was. And then when I finally did, I looked stupid. And I will openly admit that I look really stupid because of the stuff that I said about Minecraft, okay? Now, outside of just Minecraft, the Persona franchise. That was a franchise I knew nothing whatsoever about. Zero. Zip. And being able to now experience the Persona franchise, playing multiple games in the franchise, enjoying the latest one, being able to come back to it after a year, all these things, great positives for me. And so I'm happy that the patrons definitely got me to play Persona. Yakuza, that's another franchise that, again, I never had played. The only one I had ever played was Yakuza Dead Souls, which was not a typical Yakuza game. It didn't have the RPG elements. It was more action-based, fighting tons of zombies. And I liked that game, but I never knew what the real franchise was like, that it was really RPG-based with all this different side questing and stuff. And being able to go back and, being able to go back and play the real series, and now becoming a huge fan of the series. I mean, I've played what? Yakuza 4, 5, 6, and 0, and part of Kiwami. I mean, that's crazy, right? So definitely, Yakuza. Now, outside of that stuff, I've done many marathons. If you guys remember, the horror marathons, indie marathons. I guess some of the games that would stand out from those, if I can even remember, because I'm trying to think, what were some great games that really stand out? Because now you're talking 2, 3, 4 years back. It's hard for me to remember. Well, okay. Since this is an interactive stream, what about you guys in stream chat? Based on patron events, what are some of the games that you feel are some of the best games that I've ever played as a result of patron events? What do you guys think? I'm curious to hear what people have to say. Oh, I know one. Spyro. Never played Spyro the Dragon. Spyro the Dragon, when I played it last year, I absolutely freaking loved it, right? I mean, it was amazing. It was really fun. And I can't wait to play the collection. Of course, that Nana Bunny says Night in the Woods. He would say that. Dark Souls was never a patron event. Super Mario Sunshine, says J. Domikin. Okay. Danganronpa. Okay, Danganronpa, some people are saying. The Metal Gear Solid 2 and 3 redemption runs. Being able to go back and re-experience those games in a better way than the first shitty times that I played them and was horrible at them. Okay. Stardew Valley. Steve Gatsby says Stardew Valley. Wow, that's surprising because I only really played that one like once. Sonic 06, there you go. Yeah, oh my god, what an ordeal that was. Sonic fucking 06. That was like putting a cactus spine up the hole of my dick. That was just a terrible game. But at the same time, I really enjoyed playing it. At the end, I was like, wow, this game is a game that would have been good if it were finished and fully designed. I mean, it's such a poorly made game. That's the problem. The premise of the game is good. The idea behind it is great. The gameplay itself is shit. Okay. Very good. Let's do some shout-outs. Let's see here. RFHC5 just cheered and said, if Street Fighter 5 was good and you didn't have financial problems and felt better, would you take it competitively and start dominating? No. No, actually, I don't know. The thing is, I can't answer that question until that situation arises. If there really was a game, if Street Fighter 6 came out and it was a straightforward Street Fighter game with footsies, with great controls, with great reversals and timing, and it played like Super Turbo, I may be reinvigorated to say, man, I want to play competitive Street Fighter again. Sadly, in the entire time that I've done games for YouTube and now for Twitch, I haven't felt that about a fighting game. Like, I like playing them, but I've never got that game where I got a bug, oh man, I want to play this at a high competitive level again. I just don't get that from modern fighters. I think that they're too dumbed down. In a lot of ways, they've abandoned a lot of the high-level gameplay mechanics that you need for it to be a valid competitive game. And I just don't have fun playing them at a high level a lot of these games. I'll have fun dicking around with them at launch for a couple of weeks, but then when I go back after 2-3 weeks and everyone's found the broken high-level stuff and everyone's literally doing the same shit, I don't like it anymore, you see? So I can't answer your question because that situation hasn't arisen. I'd have to see, is the game good enough to really get my desire to, my blood boiling. Every once in a while it happens. I get my competitive blood boiling again, and I have a craving to play like an old school Street Fighter or something like that, but never to the extent where I would like stop doing what I'm doing on a common day with my streams and my variety style gameplay streams to just focus on like a fighting game. So shout out to Dark Carnage, who just did a 580-bit cheer. Dark Carnage has become the top cheerer for today, so we're going to get him up on the leaderboard right now. Let's do that. 88. There we go. What the hell? How did I get two parentheses? Whoops. So thank you, Dark Carnage. You are the top cheerer. I do appreciate that. And he says, no matter how many challenges you go through DSP, I will continue to support your content. Thank you very much, Dark Carnage, for that sentiment. I appreciate it. All right. Let's see here. We've already been going over for over 30 minutes. I will probably do one or two more questions, and then maybe we'll do our second break and then finish up the show with Twitter questions and stream interaction, like stream questions. So the next question is from That Anonymous. He said, have you ever... well, first of all, That Anonymous asked a ton of questions, and I wasn't going to answer all of them. I picked two that seem to be related. They're both relating to travel. His first question is, have you ever had a turbulent experience in an airplane? His second question is, the tallest building you've ever been in. Yes, I had two very turbulent experiences in airplanes. The first was way back when, in the early 2000s, when I went out to attend B5, okay? This was before EVO existed, okay? So this was a West Coast California tournament considered one of the majors, if not the big nationals of the country. And I flew out there with my East Coast brethren at the time, and we were on a plane coming back, and it was some of the worst turbulence I've ever experienced. It was the middle of the night, and we were all trying to sleep, and the plane was going like this, like not even kidding. It was like, whoa, up, down, up, down, up, down. You're trying to sleep, and I mean, some people were running to the bathroom to barf. In particular, I didn't feel good because I was sick. I had gotten very sick when I was out at this tournament, and I really just was like, oh, God, I don't know if I'm going to survive this fucking thing. I feel so shitty, you know. I'm just feeling sick as hell. I want to sleep, and the plane's going, woo! Like, oh, fuck. But I did survive. The worst one ever was a freak occurrence. So here's what happened. I was supposed to be on a plane from Connecticut to New York. I know how stupid that sounds, but I was flying from Connecticut. I forget where. It might have been like Texas or something. And there was no plane out of Connecticut down there. I had to go to New York first. And so I bought a ticket from a a Connecticut airport. And they flew me from Connecticut to New York and then down to Texas. Well, apparently something had gone wrong. And I guess they had overbooked or something. They put me on a tiny plane with one other woman who was probably like in her 40s. So it was me, you know, in my 20s, and this woman in her 40s sitting on a plane, tiny plane. The plane had like 12 seats in it. And flying from Connecticut to New York, now small plane means big turbulence. That plane, I thought I was dead. I'm not even kidding. I thought I was fucking dead. I thought I was going to die. That was the end of my life. Like, I was ready. I was like, this sucks, you know. If I had known this, I would have made more preparations. I would have told people stuff. This is terrible. That plane was getting whipped around. Like, you ever see in the springtime those little tufts of pollen that fly around outside? Like, you know, like a dandelion head or whatever, and flies. Not dandelion head. What is it? I think it is a dandelion head. You know what I mean? That's what the plane was like. It was like all over the fucking place. There was thunder and lightning. It was storming. I was like, fucking shit, dude. I mean, this is it. This is the end. I was literally done. And the thing is that the plane was so small, it wasn't even like you could hold on and feel more secure. It was just like Imagine a roller coaster that's not on a track and it's just flying through the fucking air like this. That's what the fucking plane ride felt like. And when the plane ride finished and we actually landed, I felt like I was gonna die. I thought I was gonna barf. And I get off the plane and they hand me a $100 voucher. Sorry that plane ride was so turbulent. Here's a $100 credit towards another flight. By the way, I didn't book that plane. The plane that I had booked was supposed to be a full-size plane, but they had bumped me to this stupid little plane. That was the worst. All right, that was the absolute fucking worst. Now, as for the tallest building I've ever been in, I'm not sure. I've been to the Empire State Building. I've been to Space Needle. And I've been Sears Tower, which isn't called that anymore. I actually forget what it's called now in Chicago. I've been to the top of all three of those towers, and I'd say those are probably the three highest points I've ever been in a building. So, also the Statue of Liberty. I've been to the top of the Statue of Liberty. So those are the four tall things that I've been in. What is the tallest? I don't know. I guess you would have to look it up and see what's big. Is it Empire State Building, Statue of Liberty, Sears Tower, or Space Needle? What's the big? I think Space Needle's pretty small in comparison to all those other ones. So. Willis Tower. Thank you guys. It's called the Willis Tower now. That's right. Okay. Last forum question. This one is from Guess What? He says, this is a silly question. Where did you get that handheld sound clip device that you play on occasion to add audio emphasis? In addition, how does it operate? Does it come preloaded with sound clips? Can you upload new sound clips to it? Well, a lot of you probably have no idea what he's talking about. So allow me to present you guys with... this silly little sound effects board thing. If I remember correctly, I got it back in like 2015, like a long time ago. And of all places, you might say, where did Phil get this? I got it from Container Store. There's actually a store out here in Washington called the Container Store. Mostly it's home organization and stuff like that. You can buy boxes, storage units, things for your office to put files in, chairs, carts, things for the bathroom, you know what I mean? Like that kind of shit. So, in that regard, it was just sitting there randomly in the middle of the store. They just had one of those random areas of random shit, and it was just there, and I, oh, what's this? And I started pushing the buttons, and I'm like, what's this? And I'm like, what the thing is, I frequently forget that I even have this. So a lot of the times I don't use it effectively, and I know I could. It could be a lot more effective if I remembered I had it to use it, but I almost always forget that I have the thing. It sits right over here at the corner of my desk, my laptop desk. And so if something happens, like I'm in the middle of a game and there's a big plot twist, I can implement it like that, but usually I forget. No, it is not custom loadable. It's preloaded with 9 sound effects. It runs off of a watch battery, actually 2 watch batteries, and that's about it. It's not like I wish that would be cool if you could load it with sound effects, plug it into the computer, and then have. But no, it's not like that. So, very basic little thing. I bought at a Container Store like 3+ years ago, and when I remember to implement it, I do, but I don't often remember to use it. Okay. All right, so guys, I think what we're gonna do, because we're almost at 40 minutes, let's take our second break of the show. I'll come back, and it'll be the big conclusion. The final hour of the show will be Twitter questions, and then I'm going to go to the stream chat, and we're going to get open stream chat questions to end the show. I hope you guys have been enjoying the show so far. I think it's been a good one. And thanks for all your contributions. If you're watching on stream, it's just going to be a commercial break, and then I'll be back after like 10-15 minutes. If you're watching on YouTube, I'm going to end this part, and it'll be a third and final part. Okay, thanks, guys. I'll be back soon.